Welcome to another episode of the Loadout Music Podcast, featuring in-depth interviews with a wide range of music personalities, from rock and roll Hall of Famers to Grammy winners and today's rising stars. Recorded in St. Louis, Missouri, now here's your host, Aaron Perlitz of Atomic Junction.
Welcome back to the Loadout Music Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Aaron Perlitz. Drivin N Cryin has been at it for about 40 years now, since forming in Atlanta in 1985. The band's released a string of hits and produced albums like Fly Me Courageous and Mystery Road that have garnered immense praise. And after a 7-year break making studio albums, the band now delivers an exceptional new record called Crushing Flowers, which has been called as sharp and concise a collection as they have recorded. We welcome Drivin N Crayin's founder and frontman, Kevn Kinney, to the Loadout. Kevin, what's happening, man?
Hey, good afternoon.
Hey, so
how are you doing?
I'm good.
Thanks for listening to the record.
Oh yeah, it's a really terrific record, and I know it's been a little time off for you guys, but I'm just glad to, you guys have come back with a really, really strong collection of music. But I have a more important question for you.
Okay.
And I don't know, I'm sure you get this question a lot, but I need to know, what happened to the eye? Where is the eye in Kevn? What happened to it?
Well, the Milwaukee Gas Company sent me a bill when I lived in Milwaukee, and it was spelled Kevn. So I just was like, "All right,
you're gonna just it worked for you, so you're gonna stick with it."
I was a punk rocker. I mean, I never, I was gonna work at a factory. I don't know. I never thought. And then when I started making records, I know it was the first time. I never really told many people, but I used to do these paintings. I used to love. There's a great website called the Museum of Bad Art, and it's like this. It's this, and I think it was a brick and mortar place in Boston. I can't remember, but it was actually like they would go around and get bad art from Goodwills and stuff. And that's kind of my style of art. So I was doing art, and then I would sign it Kevn, and that was gonna be my art name, Kevn. And then I thought, when I started a band, I thought, well, maybe I'll be like Cher someday. I'll have a big sign behind me, like Kevn. And then it was Gaelic when I looked it up, and then my grandmother Gaelic, so I thought, well, I'll do it as a tribute to her. I'll just leave it that way. But it was just kind of, I mean, when my bass player back in 1985, when we were doing the credits for the first record, I said, yeah, it's spelled Kevn, Kevn. He goes, what? And then he goes, dear, and then he's still snarky. He left me a note on my door. He's like, dear Kevn, Kevyn, Kevin, and then the sign Tim, Tymme, So it's like, all right, smart ass. But yeah, I kind of left it. I kind of liked it, and but yeah, I basically could continue it as a tribute to my grandmother, who was a really sweet woman who loved the Clancy Brothers.
Well, you mentioned Milwaukee. When you moved from Milwaukee down to Atlanta in the mid '80s, and I remember talking to Steve Gorman about when he moved to Atlanta from I think he was living in Tennessee before he moved to, or maybe it was Kentucky, before he joined the Black Crowes. But did you think that 40 years later, after you moved to Atlanta, you want to start a rock and roll band? Do you think 40 years later you'd be looking back on, a career that's been as productive as yours?
I mean, I think that if I thought that it'd be around 40 years back then, I thought it would be more. I don't know. It's weird to me. No, I have really no forethought. I have no forethought to see if I'd go make it 50 years. I don't really know. Back when I started a band that had been around 40 years was, I don't know, Benny Goodman.
Yeah.
It was like 1985. I'm like, who's been around 40 years? Glenn Miller Band, 1945. I didn't know bands. You didn't really run into rock bands that had been around 40 years. And then everyone's setting the bar so high now. Springsteen and the Who and the Stones and Elton John. It's like, I guess it's just what we're supposed to do. So it's not really that big of a deal. I remember when it was like our 15th anniversary, it was a big deal. So now it's 40 years. It's like our 25th anniversary of our 15th anniversary. or our 50th anniversary or our 25th anniversary. I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean,
But
you could still count those bands on, two hands. I mean, you mentioned the ones that are still around, whether it's, the Who and the Stones and U2, but there's still very few bands that are able to keep the camaraderie going and that chemistry going that you need to, even when, with the revolving door that oftentimes
okay.
bands are, it's hard to do.
Well, I think that my mentors was like I've told this story many times, but Johnny Ramone was a friend of mine. Before I had a band, I had a punk rock band, but we had already kind of started. They're called the Prosecutors, in Milwaukee. But I met Johnny Ramone through baseball cards. We were trading baseball cards, and so I would go see the Ramones in Chicago or wherever in Milwaukee, and then when I moved down south. So I guess what I'm getting at is I got to see the inner workings of a band like the Ramones, like from a friendship point of view, and how and then Monty, their road manager, was one of my favorite people of all time. He's got a great book everybody should read, and he's still out there talking about it. He's really great. Um, he came to my show at the Cafe Wild like this time last year and told me he played there in 1967 with his three-piece acid rock band. I was like, he said, I haven't been in here since I opened for somebody with my acid rock band. But they did from when they started to when they broke up, they did a record a year. They did a record every other year. They're very diligent about being in the Ramones family. Like, we are the Ramones. We follow the Ramones. We don't care if you don't get us. You're not gonna hear us on the radio. Obviously, we're not gonna be on every talk show. You're not gonna hear about us from the best of anything of Roy. I mean, they're much bigger now than they ever were. I mean, and it's also one of these people like, yeah, I saw the Ramones. Like, I saw them many, many times, and there was always a great show. They were very diligent about how they did it. They drove in a 15 passenger van all those years, and so that kind of what keeps me going is knowing the inner circle of what that band gave me, and what it was like. What are you doing? You're doing it for the fans. Like things like Johnny would say to me, like, girls. You don't see a lot of girls. He goes, girls come once, boys will come every time. I said, oh, that's interesting. That's kind of true. So I mean, I kind of give him credit for kind of encouraging me, and as we got more and more famous, he would be more surprised that he would like, oh yeah, you guys are on the radio. Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Oh, so, but I mean that kind of set the template for let's just do this as long as we can, and until it isn't real anymore. And I think they kind of came to that conclusion. They had a good last show, and I didn't go to it, but I was, but uh, I think as long as I got something to say in this realm, I'll still do it. I don't know if I'll make any more Drivin N Cryin albums per se. I really I made this one deliberately for Drivin N Cryin fans. I want it to be a collection like our second record, Mystery Road, opens with a fiddle tune, but there's songs in there like Malfunction Junction and You Don't Know Me and Honeysuckle Blue and Straight to Hell's on there. So it's like country, hard rock. And that's kind of what I always had imagined that I wanted to do when I started playing music. That I really, like the Beatles. I mean, White Album. You got Helter Skelter, soundtrack to chaos and mayhem. And on the other side, Rocky Raccoon. that's where that was my guidepost. I said, I guess this is what you're supposed to do. There's plenty of records that weren't like that, but I like the Bad Brains. I like the Replacements, how the Replacements had like In the Skyway, but then they also had chaos, and they have beauty and chaos. And I think mine might be a little more contrived. To be honest, I don't know, but I don't really care. I'm here to. I just came here to sing to myself, and if you want, you can listen. I don't really care, So that's kind of what I got from the Ramones. Like, we're here. If you want to come, that's cool. If you don't, that's cool too.
I just came here to sing to myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you said something interesting there. Do you think is this going to be the last Drivin N Cryin album?
Well, it'll be the last one that I do as an album, I think. What I want to do is start when I come up with a really cool song for the band, I want to go record it and put it out. So I think that's really kind of what's, people are, they leak it anyway. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
we're streaming this song from this record. It's like, I would rather go back to being those that are like 45s and be like, I wrote this song. It's very topical or it's very fresh. Let's go record it and let's put it out. Now, if we do 7 or 8 of those, I'll write 3 more, and then we'll make it into an album like they did in the old days. It was basically a collection of singles. So I'm not. I don't ever want to say I don't want to do another Drivin N Cryin album, but I think the story arc thing it's exhausting, and it takes a lot of money and a lot of time. It's like 30 grand to make an album, and then you have to promote it, and then you have to press it. And we haven't, we've been independent since we were on Geffen Records since 1994. We've been independent. We've paid for our own records. We make our own records. We're just off the radar, you know, or on the radar. I don't know what we are. Maybe we're too far on the radar. I don't know. Um, but I take great pride in that. But it's also, it's if I was going to wait until we got a record deal, I would never make any records. I don't think we're not in New York. We're not in LA. We're in Atlanta. It's kind of, not the great, it's not the rock capital. There's no press here. There's no, outside of hip hop and all the things that really make Atlanta famous. The Goody Mob and people like that that's the real Atlanta music scene. And then there's the underground music scene. But there's I guess Black Lips. There's a lot of great bands. Um, you know, Indigo Girls, of course, Black Crows, Puddles Pity Party. There's a lot of great stuff that comes out here. But overall, I think if you want to be arena famous, it's pretty hard to do, out of
Does it,
Atlanta.
You mentioned,
Which I don't want to be arena.
yeah,
That's a boring gig. I freaking hate those gigs.
you mentioned being independent since you were with Geffen. Does it, taking stock of kind of the music industry, uh, does it disappoint you to see what's kind of happened to the music industry as a business, in that it's kind of, I don't know, you could say it's evaporated to a degree. It's just the music industry is just bizarre to me these days, and I don't know. I find it disappointing, a little upsetting to some degree.
Well, it isn't what it was, but nothing is. So I don't know. I'm inspired by people like when Billie Eilish or whatever. When I hear this great, I think when I hear things like, "Oh, she made this in her bedroom," that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
She did it independently, and then they picked her up, and they're getting fans through other ways. They're getting fans through TikTok, um, and if I was 20, I would. That's what I would be doing. I'd be posting TikTok videos of us. I would be doing all sorts of stuff. Um, you know, it's I don't know. It's still it's the hardest part is watching from the sidelines. Watching bands going like, I don't know how these guys get famous, but they're fantastic. How do people? I wish people would know. You know, like I have this line in the song that goes, uh, um, in the corner, there's a poet. No one thinks she's very good, but I like her. The way that nothing rhymes. I wish the whole world could hear it just like me. Just I see so many people who are so great, young bands, and they ask me what to do, and um, I'm like, I don't even know because the old school movie system that I was brought up in doesn't exist anymore. It's like trying to get signed. How do you get signed to a movie deal of 10 movie deal like fuck, like a character actor? That system just doesn't work anymore. It isn't there. So that same thing happened with rock and roll. But I encourage people who don't know how to start to just go ahead and do a residency at your local, whatever you find a bar and play every Tuesday night. And eventually, I think people who want to go out and see live music will eventually find you, I think. I kind of did that with my solo career here in Atlanta. I was doing Eddie's Attic, every month or something like that, and just um, it's the only way I know how to do it outside of hiring. I mean, you know, I look back at Fly Me Courageous, it didn't become a hit because like people were really into it, and I mean, we paid like $100,000 for publicists and people to push records up, and there was an avenue of that only exists kind of in country music now, where you pay your publicists and you pay your people, and then they get you on country music radio, but then you have to go do certain fan days and all that. And so it's difficult. It's difficult. I mean, but those are two different versions of what you should be doing. I make music for me. I make music because I like to play it, and if people come, they come. If they don't come, they don't come. I'm beyond worrying about that.
Yeah.
And then there's people who want to be famous. I have no idea how to be famous. But when I do make a record, I'm not disappointed that maybe people are going to buy it today or whatever, because I know that in the digital age that it will be there for 50 years or how many years. I was lucky enough to be part of a system where when our Fly Me Courageous came out, which was our fourth album, our second record, Whisper Tames Lion, had been cut out. So it wasn't even available anymore. So that was weird, because trying to explain to reviewers and stuff like, yeah, you can get our record, but you might have to go to a used record store to try to find it because it's not available.
Yeah.
So.
Well, speaking of reviewers, let's talk about a little bit about this new album. It's, when I listen to it, it's a really interesting record in that, I don't know, it has a lot of these old school cues in it to me. And I don't know if it's some of the sweeping harmonies or, you've got some really, to me, fascinating contributors like Peter Buck from R.E.M., as well as, you've got Todd Snyder on the album Closer, Icky Monkey. But the album just feels to me in the best of ways like something like rock and roll that was made with 80s sensibilities.
Yeah.
And was that what you were intending to do?
Well, we're still in the 80s.
Yeah.
I mean, we still remember. Yes, but like the song "Crushing Flowers," it was intentionally, which was one of the first songs that I was thinking about. There's two songs that were first. Was like, "It Looks Like We're Back Again." That was like the hard cock rock Drivin N Cryin. I was like, I'm make a whole record like this. And then I needed a band to do that. So doing it at my table and Drivin N Cryin, we could practice at sound checks, and we don't really have a rehearsal room anymore. Crushing Flowers though is a deliberate, like I deliberately wanted it to sound like it could be on 90s, late 80s, middle 80s college radio. I wanted to have the phase shifter guitar or whatever it is, the chorus guitar. It's an A minor to C, which I got that from Mike Mills kind of thing. He was doing an interview about doing minors to majors. So I was like, okay. And then I thought, oh, yeah, Peter. Me and Peter we do a residency in Athens in this little hotel basement of this hotel, like once every couple months. So we had a day, we did two in a row. So that next day I was like, hey, if I have him fly down the stuff, you want to come play your 12 string on a couple songs? So he got we were in Athens with David Barbie from Sugar, and he brought in his classic 12 string Rickenbacker and played. So I was really, as much as we are, as long as I've known him, I still don't know how to treat him like a friend. He's still like, this guy that has written endless amounts of amazing guitar licks, from South Central Rain to Feeling Gravity's Pull to Fall on Me to, his guitar intros are like Jimmy Page. They're a Jimmy Page level, I think, in history, Jimmy Page level guitar licks, So I'm always honored to have him. But yeah, one of the songs is called "Keep the Change." That's actually a riff that I had from our first record, but I didn't know how to play it because it was an E. So I was doing it on the 12th fret. And then for some reason, I'm sitting at my table and I thought, I really used to like that song, Keep the Change. So I did it on the B. I was like, oh, I could have been doing it here the whole time. This is a lot easier. It's still hard for me to do because I changed I kept the change. So in that song, it goes E, D, I don't know. I don't even know how it goes. E, D, G, C or something. And then the next one, it goes A. It changes every time. So every part of every verse is a little bit different. So I was like, oh, great. I really set the bar high for a 65-year-old trying to remember this song. But I love that. I love how that one sounds. I really do. That was one of my favorite songs on there.
Well, and speaking of great guitar licks, Sadler Vaden, who used to be part of the band, produced this album for you. And Sadler's actually been on the show a couple years ago, and I remember he spoke glowingly of how kind and supportive you were of him when he decided to leave the band and go to Nashville and join Jason there. What was it like? I guess reteaming with Sadler, although it felt like when Sadler and I spoke that you'd always maintained your relationship, but I guess reteaming with him on this professional level where he produced this album for you.
Well, I'm a huge fan of Sadler. When he had a band called Leslie, they were this power trio. They were really great. They opened for us a few times. And I heard I think I might have met him on the Leonard Skinner cruise. I think his band was on there. And he lived in Charleston, and I just really liked him. So we did a couple like bar gigs together. Like I needed a side player. And then when Leslie broke up, I invited him to be with Drivin N Cryin. And so we made 4 really great EPs together with Sadler on guitar. And I really liked how those sounded. And Lauer, our guitar player that we have now, was with Johnny Blue Sky's tour. So, and he goes back. He's going back and forth with that and us too. So, but I really loved how Sadler's sound was and how he helped. I remember he helped arrange some of those like ideas on those things, on those 4 EPs. There is a song. It's called Songs Collection. So it's like songs from the Laundromat, songs from the Psychedelic Time Clock, songs from the Turntable, and songs about cars, space, and the Ramones. There's 4 EPs, and then there's an album, a vinyl album called Best of Songs, which is only best of those songs. So when people buy Best of Drivin N Cryin Best of Songs, they think it's going to be Fly Me Courageous, and it's like, no, it's not. It's from that collection. So I really wanted to work with some of these. I'm here to listen. Like, I'm 65 years old. I have nothing to teach anybody left. So I'm here to learn. So I'm learning. The last record we made was with Aaron Lee Tashian, who's really blowing up and doing great. And me and Aaron played together for years, and he played in Drivin N Cryin as well.
Yeah, he's a terrific guitarist.
Great guitar player, a great producer. And then same thing with Sadler. He's like, I really want Sadler to produce us. And when I get produced, I allow you to produce me. Like, I'm not going to co-produce. I'll be like, I want you to make. Same thing I did with Anton Fear when I made a record with Anton called Good Country Mile with the Golden Palominos. I just said, Anton, I'll be your actor. You direct. Like, producers are directors basically to me. I'll write the script, but I'll act in it, and you tell me what to do. You want me to sing it 10 times, I will. You want me to do it again? You have a better idea about where this goes or what this needs. So, like, one of the songs on the record was called "Come On and Dance," which was none of our real favorites, but then it became. I wrote this intro that was kind of like a nod to the Clash. It's like, because I love the Clash, and Tim loves the Clash. But so I kind of added, and so that one came out really cool, and it's now one of our favorites. But going back to a little bit of the background vocals and what you're saying with the air, there's a lot of good air in there. So Tim Nielsen wrote all the backing vocal parts, and him and Dave do it. And ever since we started this record, we wanted it to be a tribute to the Who, because we were all Who nuts. And so There's a little bit of Can't Get Fooled Again. There's a little bit of Boris the Spider. A little bit of, a little bit of Come On and Dance. There's a little bit of like Iggy Monkey, Iggy Monkey. So we want it to be eclectic, and our main Sadler loves the Who and Tom Petty. I love Tom Petty. My first band was named after. My first band in Milwaukee was called Breakdown. We were 16, and we didn't know we weren't good enough to play Breakdown, so we just played Iron Man, but we were called Breakdown. We went to the mall and all got matching blue. We all had matching blue jackets with rainbow prism lettering that said Breakdown on it. So we had jackets, and we never did a gig. We just practiced. So I don't know. We just all mishmashed all of our worlds together, and so that's kind of what we came up with.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about my understanding is Mirror Mirror is kind of about it's a very personal song to you. It's really about your family relationship with dementia. What can you talk a little bit about that song, if you don't mind?
Yeah, the first draft of it was I was writing it here and just writing it kind of like I'm trying to describe to my sisters. They're taking care of my mom mostly. She's in a assisted living home. She's still with us and still snarky and funny, but has Alzheimer's, and she doesn't remember she doesn't remember anything. 30-minute cycles, it goes and then it starts over. So I just kind of wanted to, deal with what's going to happen if the first two verses are about my mom, the picture, sanity and grace. Like, I remember that Alzheimer's, it can give you, I'm 65, so a lot of my friends have family who have Alzheimer's, and a lot of in different stages of it. And one of the things that I worry about my mom is that she hasn't entered it or passed it already, but there's a little bit of panic in there, a little insecurity. And so I just wanted to do something to maybe explain what's going on with that. So the second verse is like, I know you're in there somewhere, sanity and grace. I know she's seeking that on the pictures. I know on the pictures on your table, so there's like the pictures of her mom and all those people that are there waiting to greet her or whatever. But I know, but the third verse is about me. I know you're in there somewhere. The echo in my eyes. Yesterdays are living clear and so alive. Maybe you remember me. It's possible you don't. I know you're in there somewhere looking for this song. So that one was about me looking in the mirror saying, oh boy, is this happening to me? I mean, it happened to my grandfather. It's happening to my mom. I don't know if it might have happened to my dad if he'd lived longer, but we're all going through this, as it seems to be pretty prevalent, or I'm just noticing it more, that since I started doing it, a lot of people have come to me and been like, man, thank you for that perspective on it. And I know you're in there somewhere, like looking at her and just, I know you're in there somewhere, and yesterdays are living clear and so alive. Like, she really remembers the past really well. She can talk about 1939, she remembers her first baseball game. She can tell you the bus she took, how much it cost to get in, where she sat, but she can't tell me if she took her lunch. So it's a little bit sad, but it's also a little bit inspirational. Like, I know mirror, mirror, time reflections, and so whatever. Can you make it out? I don't know.
Yeah, so it's kind of making the punk rock kid re-examine his mortality and kind of come to grips with the reality we all do.
Yeah.
I'm going through something very similar right now with my mother, so I certainly understand what that's like. So that song really touched me lyrically, and I think it's kind of a beautiful kind of examination. I, I've got to
And you
say,
run into, and the more you talk to people about it, you run into so many other people who are dealing with it, and so it's comforting to talk to other people about their, you know, how was your experience going, you know.
oh, it is. I mean, uh, I've been sober 7 years, and one of the best parts of being sober is and being in the AA program has been sitting and I don't want to say convalescing, but speaking with other people in the program in groups, because again, you're able to kind of connect with people who've been through like experiences. And there's
Mm-hmm.
something so powerful about when you're able to actually speak with someone and listen to someone who's going through similar experiences. It's somehow it's very it has this medicinal quality to it that really helps you heal and just manage.
Well, congratulations, first of all. I've
Thanks.
I have not been in AA, but I quit drinking 6 years ago, and I think it's 5 years or maybe six. I can't remember. I quit smoking and drinking, but and I love not having a hangover. That's my treat. That's the gift. This is your gift for not drinking, is you don't get hangovers, and it is I had yeah, I don't want one.
Yeah, well,
Um,
I think my wife loves me not thinking that I'm awesome. So that's
but there's a really great, there's a great one of my favorite guitar players we had on Drivin N Cryin too was Warner Hodges. Do you know Warner Hodges from the Scorchers? He's been clean and sober. He was a complete asshole when he was drinking. I remember him being a dick to me. He'll tell you he was. I don't really remember him that much being an asshole, but he is so inspiring and kind and amazing now, and he hasn't had, he's been 35 years or something crazy like that. And it's good to just he doesn't talk about it. And he when I would mean when he's in the band, I was still drinking. Never said a thing to me, but by example, I'm looking at this guy with energy, and he's like flipping his guitar, and he's always happy, and he'll walk up to me in the middle of one of my solos and be like, "Yeah, man," and I was like, "This is really inspiring." This guy, it's like he's got a lot of, he's not hungover, like we all were, and we didn't know it. We're just like, we're tired, or like, no, yeah, you're not tired. You're
yeah,
hungover,
yeah.
but yeah.
Well,
So that's a part of it. The self inventory of the mirror thing too. It's kind of like just realizing what it is. Why do I feel so freaking helpless with this? I don't. She's told me the same thing like 50 times, and she's asked me 12 times when I'm coming to visit, or and it's just that, just to be patient and know that this is what it is, and just recognize what it is, just like we are. You recognize what you were when you stopped drinking. You're like, I'm this, and I have to try to figure this out.
and I think it's something that if there's one thing that I have found is universal is that it's hard to see people you love struggle. We see this with our kids, we see this with our friends, with our family, our spouses, whoever, our parents. And I think that's probably one of the hardest parts is that there's nothing that you can really do except for to try to be as comforting as possible. But you know that beyond that, there's really nothing you can do. And that's, for me,
Yeah.
a great sense of helplessness.
Well, that was the hard part of Todd's last year. Of when Todd has been struggling with these stomach issues and these back issues, and he hasn't been right in so long. And when he went on that tour, I saw him in Atlanta a month before he did that tour, and he was like, "I just got to be done with this. I don't think I can do this anymore." And I was like, "Dude, if you do it, if you quit, I'll quit." Like, I was like, "Just sell your publishing, and if you feel like doing a tour, just like sit in your chair and tell stories like you do on, like you did." He had this really great series of stuff called The Purple Building, and he was always in pain. Every time I saw him, he was just like had that big smile. He's like, "Hey, man," and then he'd be like, "Ah," right away, like, I'm like, "Oh man," and just like constantly like um writhing in pain, and it's always something, and I felt so bad, like trying to figure it out. But he did show up at the studio. It was incredible. Brian Kincaid was just his his best friend, and he brought him to the studio like one of our last days. We were still recording the vocals, and Tim was like, "Get in there, Todd, and let's sing the verse." And he's like, "Okay." So I was really glad he did that, and he gave me some art, and we just had a lot of fun. I was his. He was my Larry David, and I was his Jeff. He was. I was never the voice. I was never the voice of reason. I was always the voice of, yeah, man. I'm gonna paint myself purple and like walk downtown. I was like, yeah, man.
Is it is it in any way a little eerily uncomfortable in that one of the last recordings he's done is this on this album for you?
Well, I think if it was a heavy song, but it's just such a fun song.
Yeah, maybe that's a great way. Is that a great way then to remember him then?
I think so, because he really the last time I saw him, I brought him the Monkey Mobile, the model. I bought the model of the Monkey Mobile. He used to buy it on Amazon, so I went to see him, and he sang the song. I mean, the song Iggy Monkey. It's a silly, fun song about Iggy Pop showed up at the monkey's house and just created havoc. Like they're like zany. He's like, "I'll show you zany." Like, oh no, we got this guy Iggy Pop. He's out of his mind, and he steals the Monkey Mobile. Todd loved the part of like how Iggy steals the Monkey Mobile and heads down to the Sunset Strip to take a trip. So Todd thought that was funny. He liked it, and so I gave him a model of them. I mean, one of the last vision I have of him outside of when I said goodbye to him in the hospital was him walking up the stairs of his Airbnb with his Monkey Mobile under his arm. It's like, there you go.
That is a great way to think about it.
I have so many. I have so many memories of Todd, and I met him when we were mixing the Let's Go Dancing in Memphis, the day he was making his first demos with Keith Sykes, and so we've had a really round, beautiful round relationship, a good story arc, and we've been there for each other through our love and life and divorces and addictions and cures and managings and all that stuff, and just sitting around laughing at Sanford and Son. It was like his favorite show ever. He was like,
Lamont, you big dummy.
he loved Fred Sanford.
Kids today have no idea how funny Red Fox was on that show. And period.
Oh,
funny.
He was a classic.
Funny.
And he was nasty.
Yes, he was.
Listen to his comedy albums. It's nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
in the best of ways.
Yeah. And so this is really kind of bittersweet when we were putting the thing on there, and he was excited that he was like, I said, we made the record, man. It sounds great, and I sent him a copy of it, and he was really like awesome, and then that all stuff happened. So but he lived his life the way he did. I mean, he's left an incredible legacy. He was really great to watch work because I would stay with him sometimes in the summers, and he would I have a hard time falling asleep, but I like to stay up, but I think at his house like 10:30, 11 o'clock is like bedtime. So I probably get up at 8 and have coffee, but he'd already been up 2-3 hours like typing.
Yeah,
he'd already he had this big ball he would sit on, and he would be writing constantly. And emailing people, but also writing. And I thought that was really great. I thought that was inspiring to me to keep. So I keep moving, on moving, keep on moving through it.
Well, Kevin, let me let you get out of here on this. If this is the last album, if it's even the last studio recording Drivin N Cryin does, the reviews thus far, for whatever reviews are worth, have been pretty remarkable. I mean, Glide Magazine said you can still effortlessly churn out a remarkable record. Pop Matters writing things like, a no apologies rock and roll record after about 6 year hiatus. It feels like a palate cleanser. How does that make you feel after, again, 40 years in, you've been out of the studio 6 or 7 years. If this is your last album, how it seems like this is the kind of thing you want to go out on.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the intentions of the album just to make a record for Drivin N Cryin fans, and then by default, maybe you like what other Drivin N Cryin fans like. It's like I don't know how to get to the Sunvolt fans and the Wilco fans, and there are obviously thousands of Drive By Trucker fans and stuff like, and people who I don't know maybe can get turned on to it somehow. I don't know. Um, So, but I'm not trying for that. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to try to make this record. I'm not going to try to make anybody like me differently on this. I'm just going to do let's just be who we are as a power. It was really cool because we got to just be the three piece. And then Sadler added his expertise as a producer and then added some guitar parts as well to really enhance it. And it's been fun playing with Lauer and Aaron and all the people that we've had. But for this last one, it worked out really good that we could there's 33 minutes of music, 33 RPM, there's one guitar solo, and also there's like 33. It's kind of such a, it's an important, 33% of America, and I'll get a little political just for a tiny bit here, but 33% of America, I think, is just never going to move. I think they're going to be on the administration that we have now kind of in their world. I think to me, it's crazy somehow how a third of America is totally okay with what's going on based on their education to whatever outlet they're getting their news from. So, but I don't want to. I don't never want to talk about politics in an album. So I talk because I learned like a long time ago. I'm so glad I didn't write songs about George Bush, and then people are like don't really know what it means 30 years later, or Ronald Reagan. I always skirt around the issue. So this one's like break away from the engine, break away from the machine, break away from the story. It's all been said before, you know, you know, you know. Stay awake for tomorrow, closing in on your today. That's, just in general, I wrote songs like With the People and Peacemaker and Scarred But Smarter in 1987, 1988 that are now kind of topical. And then when I actually have had moments in my shows where I have to explain to people like, what you're about to hear, I didn't just write this. I wrote this in 1987. This song's called With the People or Peacemaker. And all things that are topical today, so I think it serves me perfectly to just kind of be enigmatic about what I'm feeling. I think I'm pretty obvious, but you never know. We don't have the benefit of playing arenas where people check their guns at the door. And I play barbecue fest in Valdosta, Georgia. I play winery fest. I play lots of places where I'm out there with a spotlight on me. And I'm singing Peacemaker. I mean, I got booed down in like Plains, Georgia. I said to dedicate this to Jimmy Carter. People were like, I thought, oh God, tell me I'm not gonna get shot at the freaking barbecue fest for talking about Jimmy Carter. Oh my God. But it is in the back of my head, that I can't be too overt. I'm not preaching to the choir ever. I never get to be. I can't wait to be. These people could just have 1,000 people who all think alike, because with Straight to Hell and Fly Me Courageous, there's so many different genres of people that come in different age groups. So those are they're all part of our fan base, but so I gave them this record to help them think and just have fun. So sometimes looks like we're back again. It's like look like you need some truth. Looks like you need some fun. We got it all this time. Are you ready to rock? Looks like we're back again.
Yeah, well, it's a hell of a gift, Kevin, and it's been so great having you on the show. Kevn Kinney from Drivin N Cryin, thank you so much for being on the Load Out Music Podcast.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Load Out Music Podcast, hosted by Atomic Junction frontman Aaron Perlett. Find all of our episodes and more at loadoutmusic.com.